So now next we have Brandon Kristy. He is the Los Angeles Zeitgeist Coordinator, and he also made all of this possible, so let's give him a hand in advance.
Welcome everybody to Zeitgeist Day, and thanks to the University of Southern California for having us here as we gather to get the world on board with the new social system. Responsible for this event and with the help of many other people as well. So to all in attendance and those joining us through live internet broadcast, future viewers, I'd like to talk today about the movement's general train of thought that leaves us advocating the new social designs that we do. I consider the movement's general train of thought an important area to cover, is that we can all have the broadest sense of what is advocated here, which is not so much a goal, but a process, a thought process that leaves us with a vision or direction. The Zeitgeist Movement covers a lot of territory, but its underlying thought processes are quite elementary and basic. It really just involves thinking and adapting. The train of thought really has no starting point and no end. The universe works this way, and it has no real beginnings or end, in my view. It's really just a big process. The movement's train of thought could be related this way. The only end or conclusion I can see as far as human experience goes is the means to nurture life best we can while being adaptive. And through this universal approach, utilized by all living things, really, we stumble upon a common ground that we all undeniably share. We'll be taking a global perspective with this train of thought, stepping outside of ourselves, our city, our country, to share a world perspective. I'll be highlighting just a few parts of this train of thought in hopes to summarize the movement's general motivations. The parts presented here consist of the recognition of the Lifeground, what is possible, and an emergent social approach. Now, the Zeitgeist Movement, first off, is a worldwide social movement, as described throughout the day here, that is working to orient the world toward a new global system that cares for everyone in the most sustainable and responsible manner possible. And by a global sustainable system, I mean an organized, interconnected, international network of form, design, and expression based around human living, with an emergent, sustained relationship to the web of life. A human system that has function and purpose. Now, left out of this train of thought because of their obvious calls to action by their very existence are the many problems we face in the world today, from mass starvation, ruthless death and destruction, vicious war, financial economic collapse, environmental declines, poverty, exploitation, resource waste, time waste, health decline, broken school systems, dramatic inequality, overall social unrest from unmet needs, and social unrest from the strain on the public to keep a system that's fading. People can't take it anymore. It's too much. We have no time for each other. We have no time for ourselves. These problems alone are enough for us to start rethinking everything. And we're starting to understand that our system is the source of its own problems, and this understanding alone is transformative. So now we won't be analyzing any of that stuff here. Rather, we're going to enter the train of thought by the recognition of a concept termed the Lifeground. What is the Lifeground? What does that mean? The Lifeground is defined by John McMurtry as the universal requirements of continued human and planetary well-being, the universal necessities and goods each and all of us objectively need to live a human life. In modern day culture, things have gotten so confused and out of perspective that we need to stop and recognize what our life needs and rights are before we go any further. The Lifeground is really a train of thought in itself. I'll go on to define the Lifeground here, but before I do, it should be stated that the following running list of life needs and goods, of course, vary in their degrees of necessity, and that deprived of any of them, an individual is reduced in their life capacity. Here's the Lifeground defined. Number 1. The atmospheric goods of unpolluted air, sunlight, climate cycles, and seeing and hearing space. Number 2, the bodily goods of clean water, nourishing food, fit clothing, and waste disposal. Number 3, the good of shelter from the elements, shelter from noxious animals and materials, with the means to sleep and freely function. Number 4, the environmental good of natural and constructed elements and contributing to a life-supporting whole. Number 5, the social goods of reliable care through time by supportive love, workday limits and safety, accessible health care, and security of person. Number 6 on this Lifeground list is the cultural goods of language, the arts, participant civil rights, and play. And number 7, the vocational good of enabling and obliging each to contribute to the provision of these universal life goods consistent with the enjoyment of them. First thing we notice about this list is that it's common to all of us. We must start to respect this Lifeground accordingly and build our reality around it, around its definitions, through our social design and every day in our own lives. We must have sense enough to choose the Lifeground relationships over harmful short-term comforts. And we better get really used to stopping and thinking about what we're doing and take on the discipline of respecting the Lifeground over habit patterns and emotional assumptions. The Lifeground is simple. Every time we extend ourselves to others, this is the Lifeground. Every time we do the right thing when we could have just as easily not bothered, this is the Lifeground. Every time we choose to eat what our body needs, this is the Lifeground. Every time we drink enough glasses of water each day, this is the Lifeground. Every time we slow down our car a little extra to stop a good distance away from a mother and child crossing the street so that they feel a little safer to address their social environment, that's the Lifeground. Where we see suffering and help to ease it, we're respecting the Lifeground. And should we somehow find ourselves alone one day, maybe off the road a bit in the trees near a stream, with the combined sounds of small animals, insects, and birds, and we look out to see our roofless atmosphere cushioning our human experience, this is the Lifeground relationship. Surely anything that relates to life sustenance or improvement is the Lifeground. Now, as we recognize these Lifeground understandings that unite us across cultures, we hope to then have the intelligence to respect it and be in integrity with it. We may get along for a little while, and we may think that we're getting along okay by not respecting it, but we won't get far if we go through life without this regard for the Lifeground. We have to respect it. And to quote John McMurtry, we have the universal human right to this Lifeground and the obligation to ensure it where lacking. See, a living system must be capable of supporting its population's life. Our economic structures are meant to convey this foundational life agreement first, before anything. The train of thought presented here now arrives at a critical question. How can we achieve this Lifeground? And so we ask, of course, what can we do? What's possible? What's within our range? What are we capable of? We look around today and we see that we have quite a lot to work with. Countless methods of harnessing solar, wave, tidal, wind, geothermal power, all clean and abundant energies. We're working now with things like nanotechnology, robotics, automation, mechanization, baroques, contour crafting. We have artificial intelligence, 3D printing, water purification and collection methods, clean, efficient means of transportation, a vast array of self-driving, self-powered cars, aircraft, maglev trains, and seacraft. We're working with biotechnology, advanced agricultural methods, hydroponics, aquaponics, vertical farming, astrophysics, planetary sciences, space flight, satellites flying around the Earth. We have the internet age with dynamic access to information, just endless streams of research and cross applications that are unifying these fields of science, arriving at solutions to almost anything out there. With more and more exciting things on the horizon, new tools and new information to discover even more tools and more information. Also, research in brain development and human behavior are finding how much the social environment has an effect on our neurology and health. And so we're learning there how important it is to arrange a stress-free social environment in order to set us up for good mental health. Interlocked and synthesized, these possibilities and potentials have immense implications concerning human life relief and life quality, if unified and applied reasonably. Any child can see that when you put this all together, we could easily harness the earth on a global scale, to supply the Lifeground to its people, to supply it directly with no interference to its access. This is an amazing point in our evolution where the world is now safe to come together as a functioning whole. It's one of those realizations that brings the world together because it involves all of us. delivering the Lifeground to the world's population, I know, comes with a lot of question and concern regarding exact detail on procedures and blueprints and time horizons in achieving this. I won't be getting into that here, but I will say that many think they do have the answers to those questions, and one of our advocates actually has a think tank project currently in development called the Global Redesign Institute. To quote its description, this advanced concept will create a virtual projection, region by region, of what an accurate and up-to-date social infrastructure would comprise, sidestepping the traditionally inhibiting factors of money and establishment preservation. This project is about designing and expressing what is technically possible, not what is affordable. More on this project will be announced when it becomes operational, end quote. I want to also add that just because currency is needed in order to access the Lifeground does not make it a life need. Therefore, it is not recognized here and does not fit this equation. There's no delusions here, by the way, in how dramatic a shift this would be with our redesign of our social system. New transportation systems, food systems, waste, energy, city systems, an integrated working whole. How could we even begin to think where or how we would start, where and how to change? We understand that we need the Lifeground, and we understand that we can supply it through our technical potentials as a whole. But how do we possibly go about meeting the challenge of this change? To meet this challenge, we have to remember that we are in a process of social evolution in an emergent reality. And in order to meet this challenge, the challenge is inherent with social evolution. Having an emergent approach is critical, which means to say that we must be adaptable. This is the next awareness we come to as our train of thought moves ahead. Having an emergent approach to life with an emergent determination. With an emergent determination, we can be ready for any change. Jason used an example earlier today, a woman by the name of Donella Meadows, who's I've been looking at a lot recently, who studies systems theory. She's since passed. But to quote her, she has a great quote on this emergent approach. A system, quote, a system that can evolve can survive almost any change by changing itself. And I think this pretty well sums up what it means to have an emergent social approach. If we can be emergent in our social structures and general approaches, we can be ready to adapt what better supports us. Emergence is in all of us. It's a universal life quality. It could be described as a result of a dynamic process of unfolding, but really, when we're learning and applying new information, we're being emergent. To adapt is to be emergent. To change your ways to what works better for you, regardless of how comfortable you are doing it the way you are, is to be emergent. Emerging into the new social paradigm that is upon us now may cause a bit of shock and overwhelm, and I think we're seeing this now in so many ways with all the confusion and anger and distrust as we evolve out of a social structure and lifestyle going back thousands of years. But we shall emerge. We either learn to emerge or we will fade away. With the strategy of emergence, we can meet these challenges of what's possible. The Zeitgeist Movement advocates this adaptation to what's possible, specifically a new global social model based on the direct applications of knowledge and technology to the social Lifeground through automated food, energy, waste, transportation. This new city design, the new city designs that are seen in many of our materials are really just functional effects that very simply evolved from the train of thought presented here. So to summarize this train of thought, we must have an emergent social approach so that we can be ready to apply what is technically possible in order to supply the universal life needs and goods to the world's population. An emergent approach to achieve what's possible to serve the Lifeground. When asked, does it even matter? No, it doesn't, but things aren't right, and we can make them right, so let's do so and enjoy the challenge as we walk towards a globally unified, sustainable culture. To close this out, I do want to say that we need something that will unify all the basic movements of sustainability and human rights together into a unified earth movement of sorts that I don't even think you could have a name for. Thank you very much.